Hey, y'all, we are back with another set of Freaky Friday guest stories. We have with us the hosts of Killer Queens, Tyrella and Tori. Why don't y'all introduce yourselves?
Hello, I am Tyrella.
And I am Tori.
Welcome.
And yeah, we're
Thank
Killer
you.
Queens. There you are. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. For those that haven't maybe listened to your podcast, tell us a little bit about it. You obviously are sisters, so we know how you met.
Yeah.
But how did you
Yes.
start the show, and what is it about?
Well, in true sister fashion, I'm the older sister, so I basically made Tori do this with me. So, because I knew
Yes.
that I wanted to do a podcast, I got really into podcast, and then I was like, that would be so easy. Like we talk about cases all the time, we could just do it. And but I was like, but I can't do it by myself, so you have to come on with me. And so here we go.
And like the good little sister you are, you said, all right, and just followed her blindly into it.
Exactly. She made it sound like it was a question, but I knew it was not a question. She was like, do you want to do
Right.
this? And it's like, you're doing this. So
Yes.
I'm a baby sister, and yeah, I think that's being voluntold to do something where you're like,
exactly.
do you want to do this with me? And you will. So
Yeah.
I'm just asking, do you want to do it? And you're like, yeah, sure, I guess I do.
I'm just
Might
trying
as
to be
well.
nice, make it sound like a question.
But it ended up going very well because you guys have a lot of fun on the air together. I love it. You're the true crime podcast for millennials. What does that mean to you?
Pretty much. We've got a lot of 90s vibes. Tori is a vault for 90s and early 2000s music lyrics,
Nice.
movie quotes, TV, like all the stuff. But so we kind of bring that in, and we like to bring
I like how
back
you say
what we believe is the
like
greatest
you bring
decade.
anything to the table here.
Dang.
What Tori, what's your favorite 90s movie?
Oh, okay. Oh gosh. Can I give a top 5?
Yes, of course, please.
Okay. Clueless. Spice
Yeah.
I was
World.
gonna say Clueless.
Oh,
Ooh,
so
nice
good.
one.
Jurassic Park.
Ooh,
Excellent.
good one.
Romy and Michelle's high school reunion. And Drop Dead
Underrated.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Good ones.
It's a
Those
good
are all
lineup.
very good. I thought you were gonna say Drop Dead Fred.
Also, good.
Also a great movie.
But is
Drop
that
Dead Gorgeous is good too.
Drop Dead Fred? Was that 80s?
It
I
might
think
be
it
late
was 80s.
Yeah.
I'm older than you guys, so I remember that being like, I think that was more of an 80s,
Our
late 80s.
children's like a childhood movie for me, though.
Yeah,
Yes.
although very
Oh.
dark for being
Oh,
a
it's fucked
childhood
up.
movie.
I should have been watching that. It was
I
terrible.
mean, same, but yeah.
I'm like, we have to heal our inner child by making out with the haunted,
Our imaginary
invisible-
friend
yeah, the
who's
imaginary
trying
friend.
to bone us.
Yeah,
But
Weird.
Phoebe
Yeah.
Cates, she was great.
Yeah,
great.
she was great. Yes,
still to this day, she's
she
great.
is, man. Time has
Fire.
been good to her.
Fire. And
Time
married to
has been
Kevin
good to her.
Kline, who was also in some very good 90s movies.
That's true.
Fish Called Wanda, In and Out.
Yes.
I love
Mm.
90 vibes.
Yeah, love 90s vibes.
Wild
very
Wild
much.
West. No,
Oh, yeah.
nobody. Okay,
Come
oh.
on.
What
Yes.
with Will Smith and who was his
Turn
partner?
on Will Smith and Kevin Kline.
Oh, was it Kevin Kline?
And then Kenneth Branagh plays the bad guy. Turn on Wild Wild West right now. I could probably rap you all those lyrics.
Wow.
Wiki. Oh, yeah, I could.
Yeah.
I had those. It was when my husband and I first met. I go, for some reason we got talking about Wild Wild West. And I said, did you ever get those? And before I could finish it, he goes, the collector's edition sunglasses from Burger King kids meals that were the same sunglasses they had from the movie. And I was like, yes. And he was like, yes. And then
Oh my
we had to
And
get
then
married.
they
And
got
then you got
married right
married the
there on the
next day.
spot. Yeah,
Exactly.
at Burger King. They just went, yeah. The king himself
Those
married them.
memories, man.
That's amazing. I'm
Oh,
obsessed.
man.
Oh, I love that. Well, Tyrella, what is kind of your genre, if not 90s?
You like music? You like movies from the 90s?
I do. I like all of it, just like the whole everything. Tori often reminds me of what my favorite stuff is. We kind of joke that I've apparently blocked my entire childhood out, but she'll be like, "Remember
same. Me
we
too.
did this?" And I'm like, "Did we?" I don't
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
but oh yeah, like Pretty Woman. That was one of our
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
favorite movies growing up. Like I remember
Mhm.
being
Again.
like really little and going to
5,
the video
6.
store. Yeah, and our
Uh-huh.
parents were like, "Pick out a movie," and we picked out Pretty Woman every week for like a year.
Every time.
Yeah.
And, as an adult, I'm like, why did you let me watch that?
No.
Culture
Traumatic.
themes.
She pulls the condoms out, and we're like, Oh, hard candies.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
that's so smart. You keep your candy in your boot.
Yeah.
Like, got it.
As a
Oh,
kid.
you have a lollipop to give your new friends you meet. That's very,
Exactly.
very smart. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the days, man. Your parents are like, yeah, whatever, it's
Yeah.
fine.
Oh,
Watching
yeah.
Pulp Fiction.
And Blockbuster.
Yeah,
I
Blockbuster.
remember renting Pretty Woman
Mhm.
weekly with my best friend in middle school, or I guess probably elementary school. So yeah. Again, you're like 8, 9, right when you're really starting to get curious about stuff and
how it all works.
Yeah.
We have very positive views of sex workers, and like sex work is real
Mhm.
work. And like, is it because when we were very young, we were like, she's a sex worker, she deserves respect.
Yeah.
She doesn't deserve to get hit by Jason Alexander.
Maybe. Pretty
It's
Woman was
traumatic.
like the igniter for that.
Mhm.
Like,
So, yeah, it set us
changed.
off.
It changed the world.
It was very
Never thought
progressive
about
for
it.
its time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jason Alexander, I always forget he was
He's
the
such a
bad
piece
guy
of
in that.
shit.
And it's so weird because
Ducky.
he's George.
Ugh.
Ducky. Yeah.
He's awful in that.
Oh, yeah. He was terrible.
Yeah, Costanza. We love Seinfeld, which is a very 90s reference too. So
yes.
that's
We're
definitely
huge
That's
Seinfeld
a good
fans.
one.
But then
Newman.
Heather's a vault of knowledge with quotes, movies, everything
comedy
as
stuff.
well. Yeah. She has a mind like a bear trap. She can just remember all that
like
stuff.
a trap bear.
Yeah, and I am like a trap bear. Yeah, I don't remember a lot of stuff either. So it seems like we have a similar dynamic
it.
of how we
Yeah.
work.
Sisterly, yeah, we're not sisters, but we do have sisterly vibes.
Yes,
I do
very
you
much.
have the
totally
like
do.
Christy's my older sister. I'll like think she's so cool and do whatever she wants. I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
I'm
I
in.
mean, honestly, I
Yeah.
got Heather into doing the podcast, so it's kind of the
It's
same thing.
exactly the same. I will tell you this though: if she offers to pay you a dime to do her like laundry or clean up the room or
Don't do it.
something, don't accept it because they'll never pay.
Thank
I
you.
know
Oh,
that from.
Thank you.
dang.
You saved me from that.
You gave away my secrets. I was going to offer
sorry,
you a
but-
dime later to
Yeah.
do my laundry.
I'll
but
take a dime. Anytime.
You are a dime.
Oh, hey, we all are.
Well, that's amazing. Well, we hear that you have a Freaky Friday story to share with us, Tyrella. So whenever you're ready, just jump right in.
All right. And just to let you guys know, everybody listening, this is going to talk about domestic violence. So we just want to make sure that you know that ahead of time. But basically, I somehow did not realize that I was in an abusive relationship until somebody from like our local domestic violence center came to the school to like talk to all the kids about it. She brought brochures, she did a talk, and I had been dating my boyfriend at that time for 7, 8, 9 months, something like that. And she's going through everything and I'm just like, oh no, like it did not occur to me. I didn't know. So I met my high school boyfriend at school. He knew everybody. He'd gone to a local elementary school. So like, and he played the drums in our church like youth band.
Was
It
very,
felt-
very involved in the church.
Yeah,
Very
it felt
involved.
super safe. Everybody knew him. Like, it wasn't anything where it's like, oh, you don't know anything about him. Like, everybody knew him. So we started dating. It seemed to be going really well. Just smitten. It was just like everything I could have ever wanted, basically, I thought. And so the first couple months it went okay. And then it just kind of like we were young. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't go on a lot of dates or anything like that. We just hang out after school, stuff like that. So it all felt, normal, fine, whatever. And I would go to his house sometimes to hang out, and he still had pictures hanging up in his room of his ex-girlfriend. And I'm like, that feels not good to me. And he was like, well, we're friends. Like, get over it. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Like, that whole you're imagining things narrative started coming in. And then eventually, like, I started having to hide bruises on my arms or my legs, and it would be summertime. So I had to like lie to my parents about why I was wearing long sleeve shirts and long pants in the summer. And I knew that that wasn't right. Like, I shouldn't be lying to my parents, but for whatever reason, I didn't really have anything else to compare it to. So to me, I was like, well, this is being in a relationship, I guess. Like, I don't know. It got to the point where if I did anything first, if I held his hand before he tried to hold my hand, if I tried to give him a kiss without him going to give me a kiss first, if I tried to tickle him if we were hanging out, like anything, even to the point where sometimes if I spoke before he was ready for me to speak to him, there would be a consequence. It would either be you're so stupid. How is anybody, like, you're so lucky that you have me. Why would anybody else want to be with somebody so stupid? And then of course there were the physical repercussions too, depending. Once I thought he broke my hand at school. He did this in front of other people. So he got to the point where he couldn't contain it, to just us anymore.
Yeah.
But somebody had mentioned, like, I have breast implants now, and I wanted them since I was in high school. I was always very self-conscious of that. And somebody had mentioned them in school, and I was like, oh yeah, when I turn 18, I want to get those. And he got so mad at me that he grabbed my hand and he's like squeezing it, and like these two bones like touched each other. Like I felt something pop, and he was like, well, I'll stop when you promise you won't do that. And I was like, okay, I won't do that, like whatever. And other people saw it, and it was just getting to the point where like it was too much to contain. And then he started stalking me, and that's when we were still together. So at that time, I didn't know you could be stalked by somebody that you were in a relationship with, because that the thought process behind stalking was, it's a creeper in the corner that, you don't know, and like all that kind of stuff. But he would sit outside my work when I was working. He would like pull up in front of the window when I clocked in, and he wouldn't leave until I clocked out. And if I talked to any of my male coworkers, I would be accused of cheating, and he would freak out about it. And I was just like, well, I thought it was sweet that he was watching me work. Like, I didn't realize that that's really messed up. Like, I was just like, oh, he just misses me and he wants to see me. And like, I thought it was nice.
It was the way he spun it too.
Oh yeah, he definitely made it seem like it was for me. And then he started complaining that he didn't have enough gas money to come sit and watch me work. So then I started giving him all the money I made at my job, and so that he could buy gas and buy whatever he wanted. And then at one point, I find out that he's taking another girl on dates. And I was like, that's my money. You're taking somebody else on dates. You don't take me on dates. And so I had the audacity to say something to him about it. And this was at school, and it was after school. So it was the hallways had kind of cleared out, but he grabbed me by my throat and picked me up and pushed me like up against the lockers. And I apologized. I was like, I'm so sorry. You're right. You should be able to hang out with whoever you want to. You should be able to do whatever you want to. Like, I shouldn't have said anything. That's totally, my fault. Like, I'm ridiculous. I'm so sorry about that. There were, other things.
Of ours saw that.
Yeah. And he said something to him, which was nice, but I mean, it didn't, it didn't change anything for him. But yeah, so there were people that would see things.
Well, but I'm just like, it goes to show that he could not contain it at that point,
yes,
obviously.
Exactly. Yeah. It gets to a point where like it does escalate for sure. And he would force me to do things that I did not want to do. Like, he ripped one of my belts in half. He ripped some of my underwear in half, my pants, like all of that, just trying to do things that I wasn't comfortable doing. And again, I didn't realize that was a type of assault at the time. I just thought, you're supposed to do whatever they want. So it was like my obligation. And then the woman who came to talk to us at school brought these trifold brochures, and I'm looking through them. And you can check off anything that applies to your relationship. And if you check off a certain amount, you can consider your relationship abusive. And so I'm like checking them off, and it's like a trifold front and back brochure. And I checked off every single thing except for 3 items. And I was like, yikes. Like, I did not. And it's just, especially being, I was 17, I think, like, I didn't have anything else to compare it to. And I thank God every day that this woman came and talked to us, because had she not, I wouldn't have known that I was in something that wasn't right, because I just thought that's how it was supposed to be. So I broke up with him. Of course, he lost it. He told me, you're never going to find anybody else that's going to love you. You're so stupid. You're so blah, 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 whatever. He threatened to kill himself a couple times, like stuff like that. And then he like really ramped up the stalking. He would follow me around videotaping me. And this is 2003, 2004. So this is a physical video camera that he had to carry with him. He carried it with him at school. He carried it with him everywhere. And people knew that he was videotaping me, but they, for whatever reason, didn't think, like, he told everybody he was making a video. It was going to be a like get back together with me video where he would like tape me doing stuff. He would tape some stuff of him. He was going to have somebody put it together and make this video. He started contacting my family members to get like baby photos of me. It was very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The top.
And he, would call incessantly when I was not willing to get back together with him still. He got a job where I worked. So he went, yeah. And that was like, and I didn't say anything to my boss because I felt like I was making a big deal out of nothing and I didn't want to start any trouble and like whatever. And I was like, I'll deal with it. And then he got into a fist fight with a guy who said something about me, like that he liked me or something that worked there. And so he got fired over it. And then I told them and they were like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like I didn't know, I wouldn't have hired him. He started after that buying like relationship, like help books and cutting out passages from them, gluing them together, like movie ransom note looking things. And it was creepy. And he would put them on my windshield and like either stay there until I got out of work or he would just leave it there and not be there. But they started having people like walk me out to my car at night because they were like, that's just like, that's not okay. And then he started really threatening, like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to, whatever. So my mom took out an order of protection against him. And so we had to go to court over this, which was terrifying to me. And if they had given me the option, I would have not done it. I would have just let it alone. And like, I wouldn't have done it because I was just really scared. And they ended up arresting him at school one day. He violated it, or maybe it was the first time. I'm not sure, but I remember they went to school, they pull him out of class, and he was reading his Bible when they got there. He was a very, like Tori said, active in the church and all that. And
the facade was very important to him.
100%. And so they arrested him. He got out. I mean, he was back at school, I think, the next day. But a couple days after that, like tons of kids at school showed up to school with homemade shirts that they made that said his name is my hero.
And it was God.
Like, they were all taking his side. Yeah.
Oh God.
And it was that, it was that people knew him. He was really involved in church. If you had asked anybody, they would have said he's such a good Christian. He's such a Christian guy. That's all he talks about. He's so involved in church. And
was he really into God, or was it all a front?
No, it's a front.
Okay.
Yeah. Just and he like
I think a lot of it too, I'm so sorry, but a lot of it too was he was so charismatic and so popular. Like he was so popular. So everybody.
So when they would see this popular kid squeeze your hand so hard that it would break, would people just laugh it off? Did they accept it? It wasn't a problem?
Yeah, it's almost like they just sort of pretended like it didn't happen. It was just like we didn't see that. Yeah. And it was so, once people started doing that, it felt like people were choosing sides. Our youth pastor showed up to court with him on his side. He never asked me any questions at all. And I felt really ashamed and I felt super alone. And I was just like, I just wanted it to be over. I didn't want to have to go through with it anymore. I felt like I was going to, lose friends over it and like that kind of stuff. So when we get to like our court date, they told me that I had two options. There were like two routes I could go. And again, I was 17 and I kind of like tried to just get out of it as quickly as I could. But they said I could either go the route where, okay, this happens now, but it gets expunged from his record when he turns 18.
Oh.
And then it's over, right? I don't have to go to court anymore over it or whatever. Or I could go the other route where it does not get expunged, but I would probably continually have to come back for court dates and stuff like that. And I'm 17 years old. So I'm like, do the one where it goes away. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to have to keep coming here. I was scared to be around him. I felt embarrassed. I knew that like half the people that we knew didn't believe me. And I was just like, whatever, it just make it go away. Like, I don't want to do that. And like now I wish I hadn't chosen that. And it's so frustrating that the justice system puts that on the victim because like in my case, I was just petrified. I didn't want to go to court. I was scared. So we did that.
Never had to make that choice for yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's frustrating.
And I want to add, I remember there was a time the order of protection was in place.
Mm-hmm.
You called to say he's here and he knows he's not supposed to be here. And they were like, the authorities were like, well, you should probably leave.
Mm-hmm.
What's the order
wow.
of protection for?
Yeah. Yeah. He showed up like to my high school graduation.
And he was a grade younger than her, so he had no business being there.
Yeah, he wasn't supposed to be there. And he was, the row of people he was sitting behind went and reported him to security because he was threatening to wait for me outside with a boulder and bash my head in. And so they did make him leave that time, but he never got in trouble for any of it. It was just like, okay, go home. So one time when he showed up, when he showed up to where I was and I called the authorities again, I'm like, he's here again. And they were like, well, by the time we get there, he'll be gone. I mean, what do you want us to do? Like whatever. And so I was like, well, why do I have this? Like what? I thought it was supposed to protect me. And this woman on the phone literally said to me, well, the good thing about it is if he does do something to you, if he follows through on a threat, he'll get more trouble because you've got this order of protection in place. And I was like,
oh, wow.
That won't do me any good.
Yeah, that
I'll be
doesn't
dead,
feel
so I don't
helpful
really care.
to me. Like, so I had to, kind of watch where I went. I stopped going to church because he obviously took over that. That was his place and whatever. And when he would show up where I was, like, because obviously he wasn't supposed to be there, and he was obviously still following me, or like, how did he know where I was all the time? They didn't seem to care about that either. But he would have this like look in his eye, and it was like he would see me from across wherever, and I'm like, oh shit. And he would have this look in his eye, and it, I don't know if you guys have seen the Ryan Reynolds version of the Amityville Horror movie, but when he gets like possessed, when he's in that like where he's not there and something else is taking over him, Ryan Reynolds fucking killed that. Like, I was like, that's the look he had in his eye. Like, it was like that. Like, he wasn't there. It was just rage. And so
I would like black eyes.
Yeah. I would just get out of there because I'm like, I don't want to know what's going to happen if he gets close to me. And eventually, like, I don't remember exactly when he finally left me alone. I'm assuming because he got another girlfriend and probably, whatever. But it finally did. It was a little over a year or so after that I finally didn't feel like I had to watch my back or anything. But I did have other girls who had dated him before, and this was high school. So like, even like his 7th grade girlfriend called me and was like, thank you for doing what you did. Like, thank you for standing up. He was like this with me. And so we would talk about it, and like, it was a clear escalation where he kind of started with some of these things and then it ramped up. And I was really worried for what would happen to other women after me. As far as I know, he's never been charged with another violent crime. I looked it up today just to see. He did reach out to you, Tori, on social media a couple years ago now.
Yes, he friend requested me maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I was like, in what world? No.
Right.
This is a joke.
No.
Yeah, we're not friends, dude. Like,
no.
Never ever will happen. No.
And it kind of freaked me out then too, because I had talked a little bit about this story because we covered, I don't know if you're familiar with the Alice Ruggles case. But she had,
I don't think we've done that.
Okay. She's, this was a British case, but she had a boyfriend who had stalked her, and a lot of the same kind of stuff. They put a lot of the decision making on her. Well, what do you want to do? And she's like, oh, I don't know. And he killed her. And so I brought up a little bit of my story in that episode, and it was like within months of that, he friend requested her, and I was like, I hope he doesn't. I don't think he knows about the show, but I don't know. You never know. But that, I don't know, that just really taught me that like you can be, you know, and I mean, especially going back to 90s, early 2000s. I mean, look at Lorena Bobbitt and everything she went through. Nobody believed you could be assaulted in a marriage. Nobody believed you could be raped in a marriage. Nobody believed you could be stalked in a relationship. It's like, he's your boyfriend. He can go wherever you go, right? Like there's not anything wrong with that. So, you know, those are things that I learned through this. And I really want young people to know that like, that's not what a relationship is supposed to be like. And there are, you know, things that you can do. And of course, you can always visit thehotline.org or call 1-800-799-SAFE if you need resources for abusive relationships.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I had so many questions throughout, but I didn't want to interrupt you. So I was trying to like stack them to remember them. And now I'll see. One, the clear escalation of, especially if he's what are you in 7th grade? 12?
Yeah, 12, 13.
13 years old. If your predilection for violence is already starting that young, I hate to think of the relationship he's in right now because he was clearly escalating
at that time,
like you said. And you bring up such good points that the court system does put so much onus on the victim to make these critical decisions when you're not in the headspace to do that. And you might not, like you're 17, you're not old enough to know like the actual damage that could be done here and everything. A judge that has seen this a time or two should be the one to be like, okay, this guy, this is a little more than just like, well, he messed up a little bit, but like has a pattern here. It's clearly very violent.
Yeah. And escalating. And didn't ever assign you like a victim's advocate or somebody that could answer questions and help you advocate for yourself?
No.
Yeah.
I literally only met one person, and it was at the court date, and they pulled me into the hallway and said, here's your 2 options. Which one do you want to do?
Oh my gosh. What year was this?
2004.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I guess is it better now?
I think we're seeing more nonprofit organizations say we want to be an extra arm of the government. You know, if the DA's office can't provide victims advocate services, but I know at least in Texas, and your results may vary depending on what state you're in, but we have like the Victims Bill of Rights, and we have certain laws that have been passed where what you were discussing, you know, I have this restraining order, order of protection. He's walking right through it. What can I do? You know, I shouldn't have to leave my apartment, but if I do, I don't get penalized for breaking my lease early. So we've seen an expansion of legislation that protects
that's wonderful.
Victims of, and survivors of domestic violence and abuse like that. But it was not that long ago, 2004, even up until like the 2010s, that there was this shifting. It's now shifted, I think, with the rise of social media and with, I think, more people being willing. And thank you for sharing your story, and like everybody on Freaky Friday sharing their stories, that we are horrified. And then we're like, wait, does that happen where I live? And then,
or does that still happen? Because like you said, all these kids that you were in school with, they saw it happening.
Yeah.
But he's popular and they don't want to say anything. And I think the more that it's now talked about, and you said you didn't even know like that wasn't what a relationship was because you're young and you don't have anything to compare it to. So it takes shows you McGruff going to the school, talking to the youth,
passing out the pamphlets.
Because especially, I mean, you don't always hear that information at home.
Yeah.
So you kind of are reliant on a third party to be like, hey, just FYI. And then, but the more that we talk about it, the more from a very early age, it's clear that this isn't how things go. This is unhealthy. So girls can see, and everyone can see the warning signs a lot earlier.
No, most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to chime in here because I haven't gotten to talk very much, and I need to.
Go for it.
A little bit.
Yes.
But this is a moment that I won't do again, Tyrella, so relish this. But I am so proud of you And I am in awe of the fact that you were as strong as you were in that moment, but also sharing the story that because you don't have to, and not that you don't think that you should, because I think that we both think that it's important to share it, but it's hard. And
Mm-hmm.
I am just so proud of you, and I'm in awe of your strength and courage that you went through it and that you're sharing it.
Cry.
No, don't cry, because I'm going to cry too. And I don't like
I'm
to
gonna
cry.
cry
We're gonna
too.
cry. It's too late.
Damn it.
Too
I'm
late.
crying.
But I can't, I'm standing in awe of your strength and courage.
Well, thank you.
And as an amazing big sister, you've set a wonderful example for your little sister too.
Yes.
Did you, Tori, when that was all happening, do you have recall that going on? Was it hidden from you, or were you aware of what was going on, and did it impact you, going forward in relationships?
It was hidden from me completely. Tyrella never ever talked about it. She didn't share anything.
What's the age difference between the two of you?
18 months.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so you were at the same high school and everything while it was going on.
Well,
okay.
we hung out, the three of us hung out a lot. I didn't.
And did you see it?
No.
You didn't see him being abusive?
Not at all. Not at all. I think hindsight is a little bit more 2020. I didn't see everything after the fact, but I saw more after the fact. But I think that you and I both have been kind of like late bloomers in the sense that like I didn't have a relationship then, so I didn't have anything to compare it to either.
Yeah.
But I thought he was just an amazing, like we had a great time together, I thought he was really funny and fun and all this kind of stuff. It absolutely shaped my relationships moving forward after I heard everything, because I mean, I don't take shit from nobody.
Good. Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I think your big sis has a lot to do with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Y'all are so sweet. And I was watching you while she was telling your story, and like you still get like really angry and just like you can't believe, because to hear that like somebody you love went through that, and especially being like, I had no idea at the time, because abusers are real sneaky and smart, and they're very charismatic, and they gaslight you and everyone around you. I mean, that's what, being like, I love you. That's why I'm coming up to your work to watch you while you work your 8-hour shift. And now I can't even do that because I don't have the money.
I love you so much. I spent all my money. Can't I have your money?
And then you're like, oh, the money that you just took some girl to Applebee's with, that money? Like, it's there's a lot of times that you're like, man, I can't believe I didn't see that coming. But that's because they're real good at being sneaky.
Exactly. They're really good at it. And I felt really stupid for the longest time. Like, I can't believe, I would let somebody treat me that way. But it really is like whether, I don't know, he meant to or not, it was a skill that he honed over many years, apparently. And he was really good at it. And, just the same, everybody around us, like there were a few times he slipped and did stuff in public, but for the most part, it was just when it was the two of us. And, and I also learned that, when some people did see it, nobody said anything. And then when the shirts came out and everything after, I'm like, well, nobody's going to believe me anything. So why would I
so hurtful.
say anything?
Man.
Yeah. It was not cool.
Will say it's easier said than done, but it's easier to say it than to believe it for yourself sometimes. But I will say to anyone who has gone through it or is going through it, it's not your fault. Narcissistic abusers, they see something good in you and they prey on that. It's not because you're weak. It's because they see something that they need to stifle out in you, and it's not your fault.
Kindness, generosity, willingness to help, any of that, they see that as a point that they can get in and take advantage. And it is, and you're exactly right. It's not, we shouldn't not be nice people because, then an abuser might come along. We all as a society shouldn't fucking wear t-shirts with his name on it.
Because that's also saying like,
stand up.
You should leave. He's coming. You should leave.
You should leave.
If it's like, well, as a society, we'll all just, no, we should be the ones that like are making the rules. Yeah.
And say, no, we're not going to stand for that. And and I think sharing stories we always say there's so much power in storytelling because there are definitely people who have been through what you've been through, sadly.
Absolutely.
But I think showing how you came out on the other side, the support of your sister, now being willing to not just tell your own story, but tell other people's stories with kindness, empathy, and compassion. I think that shows that we can take something really horrible and take action on it and make it into something beneficial
Absolutely.
for others. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't beat yourself up about anything. I mean, having at 17 to make a decision like that,
no.
Who would make the other decision,
Right.
Right. Yeah. No, I'd like to keep going to court. So
Yeah,
let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And keep seeing him. Yeah.
How were your parents steering it? How did you finally tell them what was going on?
I think it became obvious once I broke up with him. I tried not to tell anybody anything at all. And then once I broke up with him, he started coming out to our house and like parking across the street and watching, and it started getting weird. And so I finally like told my parents, okay, well, this is what's going on. Like, he's videotaping me at school and, whatever. And I felt like, a part of me knew that it wasn't right, but I also didn't want, I don't know. I wanted everybody to think everything was fine. It's like, it's fine. It's fine. And I also was so worried I was making a huge deal out of nothing, because most people think something like any of the things that we cover could never happen to us. Right. So it's like, that happens to somebody else. That's something that would happen in a movie. Why am I so important that something like that should happen to me? So I thought, I'm probably just making a big deal out of nothing. Like, it'll go away. It'll blow over. And once he started like following me to the point that he was showing up at our house, my dad was like, because he knew I'd broken up with him, and he's like, he's across the street right now. Are you guys supposed to hang out? I'm like, no. So I told him, and
Miss KB doesn't put up with that shit.
Yeah, we call our dad Miss KB. So
that's your dad.
Yeah. So he was not having it, and then Mom got the ball rolling on the order of protection, because I never would have done that either. But
well, and you fought her a little bit on it, which was I'm so glad that she was so forceful is not the right word, but you know what I mean. Like, she
she stuck with it. Yeah. I got real upset with her. I mean, again, because I was so afraid that everybody would think badly of me, and that nobody would believe me. And I was like, I told her, you're making a big deal out of nothing, it's fine, and all this stuff. And
well, you're already embarrassed, and you're like, this is just going to draw more attention to it. I don't want to like even be thinking about it. Which at that age is, I mean, 17 is hard enough as it is, and then you add all that on top. It's it's unmanageable.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like, we're taught to minimize our problems and be like, oh, well, I'm not like an after school special. It's not that bad. But I think the validation of having that pamphlet and having an expert go like, here's the objective facts. If this is happening, it can happen to anybody. And also, like, oh, I'm not special. Like, no one's going to stalk me. And it's like, we are, each of us is special, and stalkers are stalkers. And so, yeah, I think that's it's important to validate. And the earlier we can now validate the younger generation underneath this of, no, you're not making stuff up. You're not making a mountain out of a molehill. You deserve respect, dignity, freedom, all that stuff. And listen to us because we went through it. I think the millennial generation, in some ways, but until this kind of moved toward, they're calling it fourth wave feminism, the post Me Too movement, which was 2012, is kind of like when they marked the line for fourth wave feminism and saying like, no, not only do we want equality, but we also don't want to be abused, taken advantage of, et cetera, too. And we're all going to band together and make sure that doesn't happen. So
absolutely. Yes.
Well,
yeah.
What a great note to end it on. Thank you all both so much for talking with us. You're sharing your story. I know we're going to get a lot of listeners that are really going to be thankful that you shared this. So thank you so much. And where can everybody find you? Your socials, websites, anything you got coming up?
Yeah, so we are anywhere you listen to podcasts. So we're Killer Queens. Our artwork is bright pink, so you'll...
Yeah, you got real cool rad 90s artwork.
We like pink over here. And then Instagram, we're KQ True Crime. And we're everywhere. We've got Facebook groups. We're on TikTok, YouTube, all the things now.
We'll tag you, link you, all that good stuff.
Yay, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all so much, and we'll talk soon.
Yes, thank you.